one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects in Europe. This is how the German daily Berliner Zeitung describes Poland's Central Communication, or CPK, port project. The idea was that every Pole would live within a 30-minute commute to a railway station, from which they would have at least several high-quality daily connections a day. It was because shortly after coming to power in Poland, Donald Tusk wanted to throw the project into the trash. The original idea was to create a new international hub in the form of an airport, supplemented by a high-speed rail network. The largest cities in Poland were to be connected by almost 2,000 kilometers of new railway tracks. Tusk intends to implement it in a greatly reduced form. The ambitious plans have been scaled back to a modest project. Its advantage was supposed to be that it would be possible to quickly commute to it from many places throughout Poland. We also know very well that this CPK airport is competition for the airport in Berlin, and that is precisely why our Western neighbours are so afraid of this project. They would certainly be afraid if the CPK were implemented in its original vision. Now it seems that Germany is satisfied with the downsizing of the project. Baranov will not be a serious competitor because passengers from Berlin are unlikely to decide to travel 500 kilometers to Warsaw to start their flight from there. The analysis by the Berliner Zeitung noted that the coverage of both airports partially overlaps, and only the full implementation of the planned rail network would make Warsaw a real competitor to Berlin. What is more, one of the planned high-speed rail lines was to run from CPK to Frankfurt am Oder, but it was removed from the project by Donald Tusk. We are talking about millions, not just passengers, but also cargo, and therefore huge revenues for the state budget. Secondly, it is a huge logistics hub, even in the context of the reconstruction of Ukraine, in the context of the military and security. A giant air hub means security and prosperity for us. Limiting the CPK program to the small Y-shaped project means a lack of ambition, masked by the idea of increasing speed to over 300 kilometers an hour. The train speed is Donald Tusk's greatest ambition. We will ambitiously tackle the project, and I'm not talking about the distant future, but today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, of high-speed rail, the fastest in Europe, over 300 kilometers an hour. Such a decision would spell the end for these Polish rolling stock manufacturers. Polish manufacturers have been saying for years that they have no chance of competing in tenders for rolling stock above 300 kilometers an hour. Therefore, the question arises, who will benefit from this? This means that billions of zloty will actually go abroad in the form of dividends and, more importantly, tickets for these trains will simply be more expensive. This was even pointed out openly by Piotr Rachwalski, a member of the CPK management board, who was clearly excited about the range of foreign companies that could take part in the tender, led by Germany's Siemens. For years, there have been almost no tenders in Europe for new high-speed trains, and manufacturers have invested heavily in their products. They would like to somehow recoup these enormous expenditures and years of design and testing. So, if the sieve is not too dense, we can expect considerable interest. Siemens will certainly not let it go this time. Oh, I feel that something is going to happen. We have a German project and a Polish project. We are junior partners in the German project. We will be buying locomotives and building infrastructure with the participation of foreign companies. No wonder German MEPs are openly lobbying for the scaled-down version of the CPK project. Each additional stop would lengthen the journey and increase its duration. The city of Kalisz has just over 100,000 inhabitants and is therefore not included as a stop. The omission of Kalisz from the project not only excludes the city's residents from the possibility of using the high-speed railway, it also generates additional costs. Tusk's coalition and its allies are spending 2 billion zloty to ensure that the CPK project bypasses Kalisz. Berliner Zeitung also reminds us that Deutsche Bahn plans to compete with Poland's PKP on the Berlin-Warsaw route. Modern Siemens trains could also serve connections from Warsaw to Łódź, Poznan and Wrocław. I am not afraid of competition. Our national carrier is prepared for this. We are simply better. Foreign carriers will be allowed on Polish tracks now, even though the European Union has ruled that opening up to competition is not mandatory until 2030. I think it will be very good to take advantage of the time without external competition, and only then with very strong foundations. Not just think about defending the domestic market, but also expanding into other regions. Tusk's plans for the CPK have not yet found support in the Polish parliament. Last Friday, MPs decided to continue with the presidential project to implement the CPK in its original version.
Nie akceptuję.
I do not accept the MP's vote, and not because it is a presidential bill. I will be interested in explanations or positions, but I will not hide the fact that, from my point of view, this is a bad sign on the part of Marshal Szymon Hołownia and his party, Polska 2050. However, it cannot be ruled out that Germany will continue to push for the bill to be scaled back. The dispute is about whether Poland today can sovereignly afford to build something groundbreaking and great against Germany without Germany's consent.
Widzą doskonale, jak wygląda.
They can see perfectly well what effective competition from seaports looks like, because it is precisely Polish seaports that, after their expansion, have become huge competitors for German ports, and they fear the same thing when it comes to air traffic. This is one of the reasons why the Germans lobbied for the creation of the Lower Odra Valley National Park. Its creation has already been voted on in the parliament and means a halt to inland shipping and a restriction on the development of Polish ports.